If you're ready to experience more peace and joy in your life, if you want to feel more comfortable in your own skin, and if you're ready to discover and expand on your energetic gifts and personal power, you're in the right place. So here's your host, Kelle Sparta.
Welcome back to Spirit Guides. I'm your host, Kelle Sparta, transformational shaman and spiritual business coach. I'm here, as always, on our Align Wednesdays for business owners with my best friend in Bouquet, Katherine Loranger. And she is also a spiritual business coach and badass. And we are talking today about, do I know the secrets of the universe? And talking about understanding spiritual laws. So this one's going to be, I was talking to Katherine before we started this because she's got the list. And I was like, how many do you have? She's like, I've got 18. I'm like, we're not going to be able to cover all of them. So that's just not doable. However, what we can do is cover a few of them. And, you know, Josh and I covered a bunch of these in an earlier podcast episode here on Spirit Guides. So if you want to know more about the spiritual laws, you can do that. But Katherine's going to pick out a few that are relevant to business specifically. And so I'm going to ask her to pick one and define it for you, and then we'll talk about it. Okay. So that's how this one's going to go. All right.
Or
Katherine.
is it? Or is it?
I don't know. We make this shit up as we go along. So
That's right. We're just riffing here. We're riffing.
We are riffing. That's it.
So I want to start out. So for people who are maybe not familiar with the spiritual laws, like, or think like, well, does this really apply to me? Right? Like if I don't believe in it, you know, is it actually working in my life? And so I want you to think about this morning when you got out of bed. And if you are able to walk, when you put your feet on the ground, you stood up, what happened? Like you stood up, right? So that's gravity. You can say, I don't believe in gravity.
Screamed out in pain.
Right? But you stood, right? You stood. Your body didn't like fling itself off the planet.
True.
So
yes.
That is gravity at work. It's an invisible law. And so we can't say, I don't believe in gravity. I'm going to like jump off my roof and fly. It just doesn't work. So whether or not you are familiar with them, whether or not you believe in them, they don't give any fucks about that. They still apply, right? Same like law of electricity. The power, the capacity for electricity always existed on the planet. It wasn't until we learned to harness it that we were able to do things like podcasts and televisions and lights and, you know, indoor electricity and things like, well, and outdoor electricity too. So the laws are there anyway. For you, the option is to learn how to actually harness them so you can amplify your results. So the more that you can get in harmony with them and work the way that they work, the better results you're going to get. In all areas of your life, So this is really kind of my jam. This is what I do with entrepreneurs, is helping them understand and learn and then use the spiritual laws, get in harmony with them to like radically amplify their business results. And not just business, but all areas of life, because you don't want a successful business and have no self-time, have no time with your partner, or not even have a partner, or sacrifice your health or your love or any of that stuff. Like we want to create a life that is fully abundant in all areas. So just like I said, I've got like books here ready to show you. I've got like lists. I'm like, okay, which one are we going to pull out? So the first one I want to talk about, and I think that we'll talk about, is the law of attraction. And I don't want to get into it just yet because everybody's heard about it, right? That what you focus on, what you're interested in, you attract more of. There's actually a law that precedes the law of attraction, and it's the law of vibration. And so you heard us talk about, you heard us, you listened to us, and we talked about the law of vibration in the previous episode a little bit. And so basically everything in the universe is energy. And scientists have discovered that when they look at a cell, they look at, an atom, or what, the smallest form of mass that they think there is, the closer they get to examining it, the more it expands, and they see it's actually more energy than actual matter.
Yeah.
So we are all just energy moving at different frequencies. Every bit of energy is vibrating, right? If you think about the number of cell phones on the planet or IP addresses, those are all energetic frequencies that are existing at a different level of vibration and frequency. And so when you want to call me, well, you don't call me, you text me because I don't pick up the phone. But when you want to text me, right? Because I'm just kind of like right at that age group. Some pick up the phone, some don't. I'm like, don't call me, text me. So when you want to text me, you text my number specifically.
Yeah.
When you want to get a hold of Kelly, you are texting her number specifically. So the vibration is the energetic frequency that you're currently existing at. Everything has a frequency and a vibration. Your ideal business, your ideal life, your most evolved sense of self, your dream, what you would actually love has a specific vibration. And so when you can get in harmony and start to come more and more from that frequency, that's when you get those out of the blue things. You get like, like, oh my God, I can't believe I had this opportunity. You get these like clients that just kind of drop into your lap. You have these synchronistic experiences. And the thing is that those things were always there, but you weren't tuned to them. You were not available to them. So the law of attraction is and everybody's talking about the law of attraction, right? What we're focusing on, we're receiving, whether or not you want to or not, right? So if you're focusing on like, how am I going to pay the bills this month? I don't have enough money. I don't have enough clients. Guess what? You're going to get more of that because that's the frequency that you're on. But when you can really activate the law of vibration and get onto the frequency and vibration of I have more than enough, I am prosperous, I am abundant, that's when you start to be open to receiving and noticing and getting ideas that are in line with that reality. So Kelly, I just like, there was a lot there.
I have so much to say. Yes. So what I refer to it as is every person has their own energy signature, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a literal flavor of energy that people have that you can identify. So, years ago I was on a piece of land that was probably, I don't know, like 5 acres of land. And there was a festival happening and somebody was, had been looking for their boyfriend, couldn't find him anywhere. It's pouring rain outside. So it's not easy to just like wander from one place to another to try and find him. And, nobody's carrying cell phones and she's like, I have to find him. Where is he? And I just reached out and I found his energy signature on the land. And I was like, oh, he's down at the boathouse. Now there'd be no reason for him to be at the boathouse, but she was like, well, did he tell you where he's going there? I'm like, no, he didn't tell me. You asked where he was. That's where he is. And that, in fact, was where he was, right? Because I knew his energy signature well enough to be able to identify it on 5 acres of land with 600 people on the land. And, I was just like, bing, there it is. So, this is how an energy signature works, is that it's like literally an address for a person, right? It's like an IP address.
Or a reality.
Yeah.
Or a reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that energy signature creates the reality around it, right? Because you're resonating with it. And so my husband's a chef and I'm a foodie, so I'm going to talk to you in terms of flavors, right? So if you are resonating with the flavor of garlic and you want something that is the flavor of coffee, that's going to be a terrible mix, right? You're going to be like, ugh, that's a bad combo. So on the energetic, there's no harmony to those two things together. They don't taste good together. They don't resonate together, right? So when you're looking to resonate with coffee, you need to become something that is in harmony with coffee, like chocolate. Or something that goes with coffee, right? You don't have to be coffee, you just have to be in harmony with coffee, right? Because then coffee has room to come into your life. And when we stay stuck in an energetic that is not in association with the thing that we want, then we're going to stay out of association with the thing that we want, right? That's just simply how that works. There's no resonance there. It's like magnetic poles repelling instead of attracting because you're in the wrong energy. Years ago, I had a roommate, and she looked at me. She'd moved in like, I don't know, like 6 months before, right? And I came to her and I was having this conversation with her, and I was going, it's the beginning of the month. I don't know where I'm going to come up with the rent for the end of the month, blah, 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 blah. And she looked at me and she said, are you aware that we have this conversation every single month, and every single month you come up with the money? And I was like, I was not aware that I did that. And she's like, yeah, we have this conversation every month. And I'm like, oh, well, this is a complete waste of time then. And she said, yes, it is. And so I just stopped, right? Because I recognized that I was, one, not creating the reality that I wanted. And two, I was voicing something that was untrue and therefore creating roadblocks for me to be having problems with manifesting more. And I was, in fact, having problems manifesting more back then. So, this is the thing where you have to look at it and go, okay, wait a minute. Is this creating the reality that I want? Am I focusing on the thing that I want? And we talked about this some in coming into opening to abundance, right? We talked about this financially, but it's true for so many things, right? I mean, it's true whether you want community, excuse me. It's true whether you want community in your life, or it's true whether you want a love affair, somebody that to be a partner in your life, somebody to be a business partner in your life, all of these things. If you are not doing your part to become the person that person would want to be with, you're not going to attract them.
Yeah. And it's not about becoming like super codependent, changing,
No.
you know what I mean? Like that's not what we're talking about. But what we're talking about is imagining, right? Like what would I, if I'm, currently not with a partner and I'm yearning, there's a desire for that. What would I love that to look like? And then, what are we doing together? How do we interact with each other? What do they, what are their qualities that are important to me? And then who is that version of me that is in that relationship? So is she or he or they, am I confident? Am I sassy? Am I quiet? Am I introspective? Am I, what am I doing? Are we hiking together? Are we dancing together? Are we going to dinner together? Are we, sitting home and reading together? And then your part is to get really clear on that and then start to show up as that person now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one spiritual law. Let's do another.
So that was kind of like attraction and vibration. They really do go together. So the other one, I mean, there's a whole bunch here, but also want to talk about the law of thinking, which is that everything is created twice. Right? So these glasses were a thought before they became a thing. So most people's minds think in pictures. Not everybody does. Some people, I'm one of those people. It's called aphantasia. So if that's you, I'm always surprised at how many people are like, oh my God, that's me too. I always thought I was, the only one, but no, you're not the only one. But the vibration, right? The image, the thinking, the image really is there to give us the vibration. So our mind is thinking generally in pictures. And then what we're thinking about, we are then more likely to create. So the first currency of the universe is actually an idea. It's an idea for, I'm going to go do this thing, or here's this business idea, or here's this like fun adventure I would love to do, or this is the dream home I would love to build, or this is the dream relationship I would love to experience, or this is a dream business. These are the dream clients. So it's first a thought before it can become made manifest as a thing. And the amount of energy to the universe between a paperclip and a castle is the same. We're the ones who put meaning around how much energy, exertion, effort, expenditure that's going to take. So, law of thinking, Kelly.
Yeah, I think it was Henry David Thoreau said, build your castles in the air and then come back and build foundations underneath them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's an actual manifestation line. There's a transition point called the archaeus in alchemy. And what that is the place where thoughts become physical reality, right? And that transition point is the place where we create our realities. And the archaeus is bridged through action, right? And so, we can set intentions, we can say affirmations, we can, shift our energy, whatever. But if we're not taking action in the physical world, we're not actually going to generate much. Now, can you attract things to you doing those things? Yes, you can. But if you don't say yes when they show up and take action on them, then you still don't have them, right? So their action is required on the physical realm in order to make things come to fruition. And so that shift is the piece where a lot of people fail in their manifestations, because something will come in and they'll go, oh, no, that's okay. It's like, stop saying no. Stop saying no. When things come in, say, yes, thank you, more, please. Right. I used to have a friend who she's passed over now, but she was awesome. Every time I manifested something, she would go, wish for something else, wish for something else. And she's like sitting there clapping, going, oh, that's fantastic, right? What's next? What's next, right? And I find that a lot of people get what they manifest and then they stop trying to manifest, and they'll shut down, partly because they feel like they're too powerful, or because, they're like, I don't know what else to wish for, because when you grow up in a challenged environment, you don't often have a lot of dreams because they were stomped on as a child, right? And, so there's a lot of pieces to that, right? But which law are we on again? I'm
We're on the law of thinking. Yeah, we're on thinking.
Thank you.
Thinking. Yeah.
So, the thinking is an important piece. And if you don't have those dreams, then you don't have any way to create a reality, right? I literally used to walk around with permission slips in my purse. And I would hear people randomly say, oh, I've always wanted to, or, it wouldn't be great to. And, I've always wanted to and wouldn't be great to often just translate to it's never going to happen. Right. And so I would sit there. I'd be next to somebody at a bar, or, at the next table over, and the people were talking loudly. And I would just write out a little permission slip for whatever it was they just said and sign it, the universe. And I would just hand it to them and I would walk away. Right. And they'd be like, what's this? I'm like, permission slip. You can do it now. And I watched, some of the people were like, yeah, whatever. Right. But I watched other people go, because they were like, oh, it's like they were waiting for a permission slip from the universe for it to be okay for them to have the thing they wanted. Right. And so, thinking often gets limited by that requirement in your head for you to have that permission slip. So I encourage you to, print out your own little permission slip. Mine had a nice little fairy on it with a magic wand, which I loved. And so, print out your own permission slip, sign it from the universe, and give yourself permission to have it, because oftentimes that's the block in the thinking side of things. And then practice dreaming. If you have forgotten how to dream, if you've forgotten how to find what you love, practice. Just, what would I love? That's your favorite question. I love that question now too. It's one of mine. And so, what would I love? Just keep asking yourself the question, what would I love? What would I love? And initially your answers are going to be small. But as you get more practice with it, your answers will get bigger and bigger. And the bigger the answer, the bigger the potential shift in your life. So, okay. Next law.
Yeah. So just again, with the law of thinking, being aware that everything starts as a thought.
Yeah.
Everything starts as a thought. And that the first currency of the universe is a thought. It's an idea, right? Yeah. So when you are actively moving in the direction of creating more in your life, different in your life, greater in your life, greater expansion, greater expression, not always, but the majority of the time, it's going to be a thought or an idea that's going to come as the universe. That's what the universe is going to give you. And then you need to serve it with action. And so I have this like fun little thing here that demonstrates kind of what action does, right? So here's kind of an idea. And then without action, nothing happens. But when you take action, I don't know if you can hear that.
That's cool. It's all lighting. She's got a bar and it's lighting up. Yeah. So for the people who are audio listening, I'm telling you what's happening.
I don't know if you can hear it, but it's making a noise too, right? So what happens then is that you get the idea, But if you don't do action, you can't close the circuit. And when you close the circuit, you follow it with action. That's what starts to create some energy. So then, and that's kind of tying into one of the other laws I want to talk about, which is the law of inspired action, right? So when you get that inspired idea, yep.
Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah. So when you get that inspired idea, you've got to fricking follow it up, right? Because that the action is how the universe moves through us on this physical 3D reality. And so you want to take that action, and you're expecting. So this is law of expectancy, right? Where you're expecting that you're going to get what you desire, but you're unattached from the outcome, because we don't know how the universe is actually working in the unseen. And when we're holding on to, it's got to look like this, right? There could be something even greater that's come down the pipe for us.
Right.
So we're taking the action, and then we're asking, and then what's my next step to take?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and the opposite side of that is, and this is the thing I've been guilty of the most in my career, is this idea that it's ready, fire, aim. I'm like the queen of like, do it, which has served me well in a lot of ways, but it's also been a hindrance in a lot of ways. And that's because I haven't allowed things to fully evolve at times, because I'm so busy doing it and I'm so stuck in the how, right? I've got this engineer brain that allows me to do this wonderful process of being able to take the complex and the esoteric and break it down into simplistic, parts, simple steps. And so it's a real gift in a lot of ways, but I have been attached in the past to really being, I have to know exactly how it's going to work and how I'm going to get there in order to, and so I will structure it to within an inch of its life in a way that is not as conducive or productive as it would have been if I had allowed it to evolve. And so, I feel like I've actually gotten hold of this now. And so like my most recent offering started out as the very complex sort of lots of pieces and parts. And I had a plan and it was all structured. And I was like, holy crap, this feels exhausting to try and do. Right. And I was like, I'm not going to do this because it's too hard. It's too hard. There's no way to do it this way. And so I waited. And I let it percolate, and I let the universe talk to me. And I started thinking about, what's an easier path. And I just put into the mix of my thoughts, I want it to be easy, right? I want it to be robust and easy for me to deliver, right? And I came up with a completely different model through conversations with multiple people who each gave me a piece of here, a piece there, a piece there, a piece there. It evolved over the last several months until it's now at a place where I've done a beta and I learned a lot from the beta, right? And that evolved it even further. And I'm just like doing it slowly, just a little bit at a time. And now it's feeling like, okay, this is functional. This is going to work. This is then, and it's more magnetic because I signed up almost everybody who did the beta. Right. And I wasn't even trying. I was just like, I just want to, I wanted testimonials and I wanted, feedback on the process of doing the intro piece. And, I wasn't even trying to get people signed into the add-on program. And they were all like, okay, where do I sign up? And I'm like, okay, let me make it go. Right. Because it was such a successful process because I allowed it to evolve. Right. And that's the thing, is that sometimes we hold on too tightly to our thoughts and our attachment to the how. And the universe's job is the how, not our job. Our job is the what and the action. And we provide the destination and the motivation. The universe provides the navigation. Right. So we want to make sure that we let the universe do the navigating. And that requires holding it lightly. And that was not something I was very good at.
Hadn't noticed.
But you got to give me credit. It's actually evolved. So,
and that's the thing for all of us, right? Is that we're evolving, that we're open to, okay, what's next? And so, starting with that question, well, what would I love? Right. And then we imagine it. We kind of imaginally step into it. Well, what would I love? And then for you, Kelly, noticing like, oh my God, I've like scheduled it to within an inch of its life. And when I step into that, it kind of feels like ick.
Yeah.
So our body is the kind of litmus test for us. So when we step into it, so we build it imaginally, we step into it and we imagine ourselves living that life in that process. And unless it is a fuck yes, a full body, oh my God, yes, then we're going back to the drawing board. Right. We're noticing, and we've done an episode on this on making what I'm making an agreement with. So is there a part of me that's making an agreement with the idea that this is going to be hard, or this is going to be a lot of work? Right. So we're really mindful of our thinking, what those agreements are. And we can ask those questions like, well, what if it was easy? Right. What would that look like? What would that feel like? Would I love it then?
Yeah.
So I'm just aware of the time. I do want to kind of move us along, but kind of related to just one last thing I want to say about thinking is that I think it was Emerson who said, stand guard at the portals of your mind. Having right thinking is extraordinarily rigorous, right? So we can be so influenced by what appears to be the physical reality around us. We can be so influenced by other people's opinions, ideas, beliefs, thoughts. We can be influenced by what has happened in the past. We can be influenced by what experts are saying. So we are, with the law of thinking, for this to like really, really work for you, we are making full agreement with this is the belief, this is the thought, this is the image, this is the vision. And I'm not dismissing reality, right? Like just like gravity, like I can't say like I'm going to fly, without any kind of mechanical assistance.
Right.
And maybe we're like sleeping and what's the word?
Astrally projecting?
Yes, astral. We're doing some astral projection, right? But in the kind of physical reality where we're awake.
Right.
So we don't dismiss reality, but we can say something like, well, at the level of fact, this is what my bank account looks like.
Right.
And what I am making an agreement with, what I am fully aligning all of the thought power available to me with is full and vibrant abundance.
Yeah.
So I don't dismiss this, but I don't give it my power either.
Right.
And it doesn't mean we go and we're like, kind of crazy and spending money that we don't have. And, like there's ways, and we've talked about this in other episodes, of being fully in alignment with that vibration of abundance and making an agreement with it. Same with health, same with business, same with love, like any of those things. So Kelly, you talked about this, you kind of like, you touched on this, but I also want to bring to people's mind the law of receiving, right? So if I'm not open to receiving, there is no way in heck the universe can bring me what I would desire, what I would want. And, a lot of people say like, oh yeah, I'm like totally open to receiving. But then think back, what's the last time, or the last time that somebody gave you a compliment, how did you respond?
Right.
Or the last time that maybe somebody offered to help you with something, what was your response? Oh, no, I've got it. I'm a strong, independent woman. I've got it. I can do it. Right. I'm not worth it. I don't deserve it. So the law of receiving
for it.
Yeah, right. What's what's in it for you? Not just thank you, right? Or not feeling like, oh, I need to like reciprocate right away. I can't actually let that receiving in. I've got to quickly, give it back to balance the scales. Yeah. So the law of receiving, a lot of people don't know this, is actually activated by giving. So if you think about, and we don't need this in Panama because it's like really nice and pretty temperate and toasty here. Yeah. But if you think about a wood stove, right? You don't go to the wood stove and say, okay, give me some heat and then I'll give you some wood. No, we don't. We know that that's not how it works. So we have to give it the wood before we get the heat. When we're planting a garden, gardeners know this, farmers know this. When we want to like reap a harvest, first we have to sow the seeds and then we have to tend them with love and care and attention. And so we're aware of, and I love the garden analogy. So we're, when we're planting an apple seed, we don't expect to get an orange.
Yeah.
So we're very much aware of what we're planting, what we're kind of sowing. And then with the law of, to kind of really activate the law of receiving and the law of circulation, because it's like a cycle, right? They kind of go together. we're giving with unattachment.
Yeah.
So we're giving with a knowingness that this is okay, this is coming back to me. I don't know how, I don't know where, I don't know when, but I know that this is just the way that it works. So I'm not giving with that expectation or giving with that, oh, now what's in it for me?
Right.
Because then you dismiss it. Right. So I have a great example of this, and Kelly, you probably do too. I was doing some speaking engagements, and I had put together a couple proposals to speak at a couple of women's conferences, and they were both accepted, and they're paid speaking engagements. And so I had kind of shared this with a small group of coaches that I'm in community with, and one of the people reached out and said, "Oh, can I have a copy of your proposals?" Right? And my initial knee jerk was like, "Oh my God, like I put so much work into those, and this is confidential information." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, Catherine." So just took a deep breath, and I'm like, "You know that this is not how the universe works."
Right.
So I'm like, "Yes, absolutely. I'd be delighted to share them with you." And I just sent them over, like full, nothing redacted, nothing. Just sent them over. And like literally 30 minutes later, I get a new client out of the blue.
Right.
Out of the blue. Someone I didn't even know had referred someone who, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're giving with the knowing, with the certainty that this is just how it works, right?
Yeah.
As I'm in that higher level of giving, I'm in a higher level of abundance, a higher vibration.
Right.
And then it's activated that law so that it's going to come back to me.
Right. So I want to address the other side of that though, which is the people who give as an addiction, right? It's just like
Yes.
you're the chronic
But
giver, you give
again,
and
it's
give
the
and give.
vibration, right? It's the
Well,
vibration.
it is a vibration, but it's also there's a contract that you're making when you are in that state. And I want to talk about that because you can give from a place of giving to the universe, pay it forward to the universe and the universe will give it back and everything is all good. And that's what you're talking about, right? Or you can give so that you can feel good.
Yeah. And that's not what we're talking about.
And if you do that, well, I want to say it because it's really important. The difference is really
Oh,
important.
for sure. 100%. Yeah.
So if you're doing that, then if you're giving a lot and you're not getting back, then you really need to look at this piece, because if you're giving a lot and not getting much back, then you are giving to make yourself feel valuable, to make yourself feel good. And that is what you're getting in return for your giving. So in order to make your giving actually work in the way that we're talking about now, you have to actually work on how do I internalize my sense of value so that I'm not trying to give to be valuable, right? And so when you can internalize your sense of value and know that you have value even when you are doing nothing, then your giving will start to work in the way that Catherine was talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And in my programs, we actually work with the concept of tithing, which is where we're giving 10% of time, talent, and treasure. And, I remember one of my clients who, at one point, and she shared this with me kind of towards the end of one of the cycles of the programs. And she said that her tithing now, the amount that she was tithing every month was higher than what her income used to be.
Yeah.
So she had like 10 times her income by being in harmony with this law of circulation.
Yeah.
So I think we probably, there's like
think
so many.
So many. We'll have to do another episode on this.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, okay. So I'm going to,
enough, but I think,
I
I
want to do one more. Can I do just one more? Just one more.
Sure.
Just one more. Okay.
Why not?
So I want, and this, like, I love this one. I love just the idea of it is the law of sacrifice. So this is where we are sacrificing the lesser to gain the greater. So we're giving up something of a lower nature to gain something of a higher nature. And so an example of this might be I'm giving up smoking, or I'm giving up social media doom scrolling, or I'm giving up complaining, or I'm giving up gossiping, or I'm giving up kind of, busy work that makes me feel good about myself, feel like I'm accomplishing something, but it's not actually the stuff that we need to do to move the needle.
Right.
Or maybe I'm giving up like junk food, right? So the law of sacrifice then, where we're giving up that lower, and again, it's thinking about vibration, right? Because just like channels on a television or radio or, internet or cell phones, you can't have two things existing on the same frequency.
Right.
So resentment and love they're not ever going to be on the same channel.
Right.
So you've got to decide, which one do I want to be tuned into? Which one do I want to be on? And what am I willing to sacrifice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do I want to be right or do I want to be happy?
Yes.
That was a hard one for me.
Yes. Yeah. Same,
Right
same.
all the time, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I was like, you know
Yeah.
what?
And then it's like, yeah, I want to be happy.
I want to be happy. Yeah.
I want to be happy, baby.
Yeah. And I can hear people out there going, but what if I am right? Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
What if you
sometimes you
are?
can be right, but it's not necessarily the path that's going to make you happy. So,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
you can be attached to being right, or you can be attached to being happy. And, you know,
Yeah.
whichever
Yeah.
one you focus on is what you're going to get. Right.
Yeah.
So we
Well, and
know that.
what's important to you, right? Is
Right.
it relationship?
Exactly.
Is it friendship? Is it right? Like, and where are you putting your energy? So if you're putting all of your energy into like, I have to be right about this, and I
Yeah.
need to convince people, and I need to tell them, and I need to, right? Like you're kind of stuck in there. Your focus, your mind, your thoughts, all of it. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's generally a unless you're on the autism spectrum, because in the
mm,
autism spectrum, right
mm,
can be
yeah,
really important. But
yeah.
if you're not on the autism spectrum, then being right is about being valuable, right?
Mhm,
We're going back to that. And I can't tell you how many people make less money because
mhm,
they need to feel valuable. And so part of
mhm,
their payment is the other person saying, yes, that was amazing. Right. And
mm,
so they end up taking less money because they're getting validation in return.
mm,
And
mhm,
so, you know, there's a lot of ways in which that plays into your business. So
mhm.
these are all things that there's so many layers, so many layers, so many laws.
You
Yes.
know, if you and business, like if you're listening to this podcast and like, hello, this is you, spoiler alert. But if you choose to really explore, expand, step into, take advantage of business as a growth opportunity, like it has the capacity to cause you to grow in ways that you could never have imagined. Never have imagined. I mean, I have like a master's in counseling, and I've done like years of my own work, group and individual, and I've worked as a counselor and a therapist, and getting into business, like holy crap, the stuff that came up, like wow, well that's isn't that interesting? Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting? Hmm.
It is the best workshop ever.
Right? The
Yeah.
workshop of life.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
And this is the other piece. And I was going to say this when we were talking about thinking. There's this thing in business where every business owner seems to think that successful business owners know what they're doing.
Oh,
I
we
can tell
talked
you
about this, I think.
definitively.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
they
talked
don't.
about this. They don't. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody
No, they
knows.
don't.
Nobody
But
knows.
they're better at putting their thoughts into action.
Mm,
That's really what it comes down to, is they are better at putting their thoughts into action and being consistent in the follow-up of that
yeah.
in the ways that matter, right?
Yeah.
So not just doing activity, but action. There's a difference,
And
right?
not having to know all of the how. Because if
Right.
you're waiting to figure it all out or
Oh,
know
you'll
all
be
of the
miserable.
hows, you're not, right. And it's
Yeah.
actually like thinking back, like I've accomplished some things in my life where people are like, I don't even know how the hell you were able to do that. Like that's impossible that you were able to kind of get that done or make that happen. And when I look back, it's like, it's because I didn't know I couldn't.
Right.
Know how it was supposed to work, right? I just was like, okay, well, what's the next step? That's all I'm going to do. Well, what's the next step? And what feels in alignment?
Right.
Okay. And just take the step. And then people are like, oh, like, how
Yeah.
did that happen? I don't
Yeah.
know.
I get that a lot from people too. They're just like,
Mhm.
how did you do that? I was like, oh, I just
Just
kept
follow
going.
the breadcrumbs from the universe. That's right. Breadcrumbs from the universe. Yeah.
Yeah. I
So,
just said
yeah.
yes. I'm the spiritual yes girl, you know? Just like, you
Mm-hmm.
want to do this? Yeah, I want to do that. Want to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to do that,
Mhm.
you know? As
Yeah.
long as you just keep saying yes. A lot of people turn things down because they don't understand them, or they don't want
Yeah.
they're scared or whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, let's try it. I'm a throw my
Well,
butt to the wind kind of girl. So,
here's the thing too. I'd love to share is that as you start to really get into alignment with the spiritual laws, what is going to and you're starting to take consistent action, and it's aligned action, and it's connected to the vibration. So the energy from which you take the action is is often more important than the action itself, because that when you take that action and you're in harmony with the frequency of the reality that you're creating, there's like this ripple effect that goes out into the universe and the unseen, right?
Yeah.
And so when that happens, when you're doing that, what's going to happen is that you're going to get opportunities coming into you. The universe is like, would you love this? How about this? I got some of this for you. Would you like this? Would you like that? And so then you don't have to say yes to everything, right?
True.
The universe is just like there to serve you and support you. And so your role then is to tune into yourself. Well, would I love this? Right. Does this feel in alignment with, with me? Does it feel juicy? Does it feel exciting? Or is there kind of like no, thanks.
Yeah. And sometimes you can be super aligned with something in one moment and really not aligned with it later.
Totally. Allowed to change your mind.
I had that happen. I heard about something through the grapevine and I was like, I want in. And they were like, yeah, we'd love to have you. And I came in and I was in it for a year and I was super enthused. And then my enthusiasm began to wane and some new things came up that I thought I was going to be super enthused about. And then they came through and I was like, no, right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah.
And, that didn't make being in before wrong.
No.
It just meant that the situation had shifted and I had shifted and where I was and what I was aligned with had changed.
Yeah.
And, I had evolved a lot in that year and I was no longer in the place that was going to be in alignment with what they were offering going forward. And it's okay. No big deal, right? It's just an acknowledgement of growth, right? So, or shift. Doesn't even have to be growth. Could just be shift, right?
Yeah.
So all the things. So, okay. Let's call it good for today because otherwise we're going to be a marathon.
And let us know, listeners, please let us know. Do you want us to continue this conversation and talk about some of the other laws? Because there's like a whole bunch of them. So let us know if this is helpful. Which one has really resonated for you? Let us know like, oh my God, that totally happened. I have a great example of that. And then again, let us know if you want us to continue the conversation and talk about the other ones.
Yeah.
Because we're here to serve you. We're here to serve you. Lovely person. Amazing light being.
And if you loved this episode or any other episode, please share it with your friends. That's how we know that you guys are enjoying it, is because more people listen. So, we, from our side of things, we're talking into the void, right? We don't get to see you. We don't get to hear you. You see us and hear us and you get to know us. And the only way we hear back from you is if you comment or you send us a message or you share it with your friends and the podcast starts growing. That's how we know that we're doing a good job. So if you could give us a little feedback in that format of either sharing it with your friends or leaving some comments, we would love that. And so that's it for this week. We will see you next week and the podcast will see you tomorrow. And don't forget that what you focus on is what expands, what you intend is what you create. So choose wisely. We'll see ya.
So that's it for today's episode of Spirit Guides Podcast. Head on over to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen and subscribe to the show. Every week, one lucky listener who subscribes and posts a review on iTunes will be entered into a drawing for a $10,000 value grand prize and a private reading with Kelle Sparta herself. Be sure to head on over to spiritguidespodcast.com and pick up a free copy of Kelle's gift and join us on the next episode.